Hi guys, so today we have something a little different, little interesting for you. What I have in front of me are a pair of Canadian Army parade boots. These were made in the 1950s. There's actually a stamp inside that has the date of manufacture as 1950. And I picked these up when I was on a trip a couple of months back. And they are wearable, but they're not very practical the way they are. So what we're going to do as a little side project, and maybe to show you guys the type of stuff that goes into making a boot and what the boots used to look like back then, what the materials were like, we are going to disassemble the sole partially and resole it, upgrade it so that it is wearable today and usable today. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this. What exactly is this? So this is a 1950 pattern Canadian parade boot. Now, what is a parade boot? So a parade boot is basically what soldiers would wear when they are on parade, as the name implies, or when they're on guard duty on the bases or elsewhere. So the design is almost identical to the ankle boots they would wear in combat or as part of their BDU uniform, but there are some slight differences. For example, if you look at the sole, you'll notice it is extremely thick, and there's a reason for that. There are 4 layers of thick vegetable tan leather under the foot. There's about as many layers in the heel. On top of that, you'll see right up here, there's a little metal plate or a toe tap, and there's a heel tap as well. These were intentionally put, unlike hobnails that were used by the British Army in the Second World War and many other armies for centuries prior to that. These weren't to necessarily protect the leather or to add grip. They were so you get that nice sound effect when you're marching in formation. So what's the plan with these? The plan is quite simple. We're going to tear off a couple of these midsoles, replace it with some type of rubber outsole, tear off a couple of the heels so it balances out, replace it with a rubber heel topper, and we're going to try and salvage these metal plates over here, reinstall them, and see how feasible it is. What is interesting to note is how different sizing was 60, 70, 80 years ago. So in today's sizing, I'm a US 11, a UK 10, 10.5. Generally a UK 10.5 in most of the things I wear. These are a UK 10, and they're still a size big for me on length. However, despite the fact that they're a D or a normal width, they're a little tight. So I'm going to try to widen these up as well as we work on them. We'll see how it goes. Thank you. So we finished working on the Canadian parade boots that were made in 1950. And here's what happened. So as we started disassembling the boots, we realized that they didn't use any glue back then. Instead, what they used were nails, lots and lots of nails. This heel piece is one of 4 layers that made up the heel stack. And there are about 40 nail holes in this piece alone, right? So every single layer had one additional round of nails going through it. This was done primarily to conserve, and I also suppose to reduce the need on certain chemicals that were perhaps in shortage or not that frequently used. So we had 4 layers of thick veg tan slabs like this that made up the midsole and outsole, and then you had 4 layers of thick veg tan pieces like this that made up the heel. What we did in addition to that is we took off these little heel plates and toe taps that were on the original boot, mostly because they don't serve a purpose anymore, and all they would do is increase the slip and slide while wearing the boots, and not much else. So the way we went about it is there were 4 layers on the midsole. We took 2 of those off, and that's how we got to see the inner workings of this historical boot. We took 2 off, and then we put one of our studded outsoles on it. This is a low-profile outsole, fits in perfectly with that parade boot, that military-inspired kind of look. And as we ripped off layers of the heel, we used one of our studded heel components over there as well. Overall, gave a great look to the boot. There were problems though. It wasn't easy taking this thing apart or putting it back together. It took a lot of backbreaking effort to get well over 200 nails out of each boot and then, kind of put pieces back together as well. Another major challenge we faced while trying to attach a new sole was that none of our lasts were able to fit inside the boot. The boot was surprisingly narrow, and I can attest to that as someone who's worn them quite a bit. I'm usually a D width, and these were very snug on me, and they're extremely unwilling to stretch. I've been using a boot stretcher in them for well over a month now, and they've barely budged an inch. But you can't really try these things out before you buy them. You buy them from an antique dealer, or you buy them from a reseller, and you get what you get. Overall, though, super interesting project to do. Really one of a kind. It was just so interesting to see how high the quality of construction and materials was, especially for something that was mass-produced on contract by the government and not privately made. And it really reinforces to me, working for Craft and Glory, how close we are today to maintaining and even elevating the standards that was set 80 or 90 years ago. So every time you pick up one of your boots today, you have to know that that same heritage is right there what's in your hand. We have nails going through the heel. We have a rubber outsole sitting on a thick slab of veg tan like this. We've got a thick slab of veg tan like this under your foot, under the insert, which forms the lasting board or the foundation of the boot. Where we've improved, and I think most manufacturers have, is we don't need to use 400 nails to make a pair of boots. We just use extremely high-grade contact cement, which holds all the components together and actually helps lighten the weight. Because if you take 400 nails out of a pair of boots and then you weigh them up, it's going to be 50, 60, 70 grams of extra weight to lug around for no reason. Yeah, so it was a great experiment. I've ended up with a completely usable, more or less, pair of 80-year-old boots, and we'll be showing more of those going forward in the future. Maybe they'll serve as design inspiration for a new product someday down the line. Who knows? But thanks for showing up, thanks for watching, and thanks for following us on this journey of restoration. Have a great day.